So being a business owner, I've experienced some pretty decent levels of stress, right? And it's led to some stomach problems even last year. But being a health coach puts me in a pretty cool position because a lot of the work that I'm doing is directly related to solving these stress issues. So in this video, I'm going to cover a simple 4-step framework that you can use whenever stress arises so you can focus on growing your business without getting burnt out or feeling negatively overwhelmed. Let's go. Step 1 is identifying signals, okay? So you want to find out what signs there are of stress creeping into your life. So this could be different for each individual. Examples for me include lack of focus, irritability, overthinking, and mainly lack of sleep, right? So I could literally tick off my routine to the dot and still lie in bed and be awake for 4 to 5 hours. That's a signal for me that something is stressing me out, and I'll keep a note of that. So what you want to do is have a diary or online on Google Docs or something. So keep a note of what you think could be some of the signals of stress coming into your life. Step 2 is I want you to identify and categorize the stresses. Basically, what is causing the stress? Things could be finance, could be family, could be an annoying client, could be an unforeseen circumstance. But it's important that you do this because in the head, a problem is big, but on paper, the problem is small. If you leave something in your mind, it will make a mountain out of a molehill, but when it's on paper, it's now a clearly defined problem, which you can start to begin working on. How many times have you left something in your mind and that problem has doubled and tripled and quadrupled over the weeks, and then when you actually went to solve it, it was a tiny, simple issue? That's basically what you're doing when you leave something in your mind all the time. So I want you to get into the habit of writing down your issues or things that are causing you stress on paper or online on a software like Notion, for example. Once you've got those stresses listed out, I want you to put them into 2 categories. A is what is in my control and B, what is outside of my control. So examples of what's in my control could be recording a YouTube video, writing 3 LinkedIn posts, following up with 30 prospects. Stuff that's outside my control could be a video getting 100,000 views, LinkedIn posts getting more interactions, a prospect signing up to the coaching. And obviously you want to find the stresses that are related to you specifically and put them in the corresponding buckets. Now, what I want you to do from this is absolutely ignore B, because there is something that you have no control over, okay? Just like the outcome of a football match, right? If you allow your emotions to be dictated by the outcome of your favourite football team winning, it's not really a great bet. It's not really a good place to put your money because you have no control over that. So if your team loses, then you're basically saying, I'm going to feel like shit. So that's basically what you're doing when you're putting your emotions into category B, because you have no control over that thing, right? I have no control whether my video gets 100,000 views, right? There's so many different factors that go into it. But I do have control over recording a pretty decent YouTube video to my standard, okay? So just focusing on that B is just adding fuel to the fire for absolutely no reason. You're basically making your life worse every time you think about what's in bucket B. Step 3 is to exercise. Now this is a super important part, because now you're stepping away from that stressful, stimulating environment. You're going to a new place where you're going to start releasing some endorphins, some positive hormones within your body, which is going to allow you to come back and tackle the rest of the day with a better attitude, right? If you're sat in there in that same place that's been keeping you stressful, you're basically sinking into the mud more and more and more. So get out of it, change the scenery, move your body, and then come back. I would recommend that you either do a 30-minute resistance training session or a 20-minute high-intensity interval workout. The reason you don't want to do a massive high-fatiguing session is because you don't want to take your central nervous system out of the game and tire your brain out so much so that when you come back home, you're dead, right? You have to take the whole rest of the day to recover. That's not what we're trying to do. We're just trying to give yourself a little bit of a refresh so when you come back home, you're in a better state of mind to tackle the problems that you need to. Now, if you want an example routine, you can click the link in the top comment and you can download one that I've made for free. Now that you've come back, fresh in your mind, step 4 is to break down and act. So you're going to go back to that bucket A, the things that are in your control, and you're going to identify what is both urgent and important. And you can identify that using something called the Eisenhower matrix. This is something that I've literally got on my whiteboard up there. I use it on a daily basis. It's a super effective tool for helping you categorize what you need to do and maybe what you don't really need to do at the moment. So it's split up into this little quadrant, and on the top is what's important, on the bottom is what is not important. And on the left side is what is urgent, and on the right side is what is not urgent. So what we're going to focus on is that top left quadrant, which is both urgent and important, and we're only going to focus on those tasks today. And this is going to vary from business to business. For example, with me, an urgent important task could be making sure my client's program are reset for the new phase, right? That's an urgent task because it's important for client retention. Once you've identified that task that is urgent and important, I want you to break it down into its literal smallest pieces. So, for example, recording a YouTube video could be looking in my idea folder, brainstorming a plan, writing a script, record the video, edit the video, and then publish. Now, what I want you to do is just focus on one thing at a time. If you think of the whole thing you have to do in your mind, it's like, oh, now I have to climb Everest. All of it seems so long, I can't be bothered with it. But if you just break it down and just think to myself, all I have to do is look in my idea folder. All I have to do is brainstorm a plan. Don't even think further than that. It makes life so much easier in your own mind. It's something that's, it's a simple step. It's not as big as you think. Another important thing to understand is when you're doing a task, so like, for example, I told you focus on one thing. Let's say task 1. When you're doing task 1, naturally your mind will start to wander to task 2 and start to think about what you need to do then. What you have to do in this situation is practice actively bringing your focus back to task 1. Your mind will constantly wander and start thinking about task 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and every time it does that, you actively bring it back to task 1. Just like completing a rep in the gym, you're going to keep doing these reps, and the more you do it, the more focused you'll be able to be on one thing, which will actively reduce the stress. Because stress arises because there's loads of things on your plate and you're not able to identify and take one thing at a time. So what you're going to do is practice this in the micro by bringing your focus and attention back to one task at a time. Now when you implement these things, what you'll find is over time you'll be able to identify signals faster, you'll be able to put your stresses into the right categories, maybe even mentally, you'll be able to get to the gym without sitting and wasting time for too long. So this whole process of step 1 to 4 becomes a faster loop. Now the faster you can make this loop, the better it will be, because the less time you'll spend in burnout mode, right? So when you're absolutely drained out, stressed, overwhelmed, sometimes it can take weeks to recover, right? And it has done for me, honestly. But implementing this 4-step framework has allowed me to recover way faster. Whenever I feel like the stress is coming up, I know what to do, I've got a plan of action, so I can keep implementing that. But yeah, that's it. Goodbye.